as I was snowed in at our house where I live in Alexandria, Virginia, and we got some pretty good snow. What kind of things, if you were snowed in, did you set yourself up for while you were knowing you're going to be snowed in? You know, like people go and they get food and they set up how they're going to live, what they're going to eat. What did you set up for your mind? Are we constantly blocking out noise from our mind, numbing ourselves? Do we just binge watch? Do we read something good? Do we try to identify what we're going to do when the snow's over with and how we're going to stay living in a good, peaceful way of life? So we're going on to week 2. And week 2, we know, is all about um, our identity and self-awareness. And what do this is where this is where this series is really going to help anybody, because we're going to talk about how to find your identity and waking up from autopilot. Remember last week we were talking about waking up from autopilot, and one of the things, if you are living on autopilot, one of the things is days blur together, functioning and not experiencing. And that's a big one, when you're functioning but not experiencing life. Those are some of the signs that you are on autopilot. And this is from week 1. And we're going to change some stuff on this today too, but we're just going to go over week 1. If you're on autopilot, your days blur together, you're functioning, not experiencing, you're busy, rarely fulfilled, reacting and not choosing. Your default is scrolling, binging, and numbing out. Your downtime doesn't seem to restore you. Instead, it passes time. You avoid thinking about big questions. You feel life is just happening to you and not with you. You just feel it's happening to you. And you say yes out of habit. You don't journal. You rarely try new things, and you ignore the inner nudges. Ignoring the inner nudges. Now, today we're going to get into some really big stuff. And what I mean by that is we are going to be talking about you can't live intentionally if you don't know yourself. And we have some objectives to talk about today. We're going to help build a solid, honest awareness of where you are in your life. And we're going to explore how to identify stories and labels that shape our minds. One of the things that I was doing last night is I was listening to a live of somebody that I listen to once in a while, and they stopped the live because they only stop their live if they don't have at least, 50 people or whatever, and they don't think that it's worth it. And I do. And I thought to myself, would I stop my live if I just had a few people in there? And I probably wouldn't, because I do this for me, not just for the people out there. And Lena, you're very welcome. And that's one of the things that last night when I was listening to somebody, they stop if there's not a lot of people in the room. When you have an audience and they're there wanting to learn, I don't care if it's one person or just Brian. It's something that I still do. So this is about living your life intentionally. My name's Ray Giroux, and I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a motivational speaker. This isn't a fix your life in 30 minutes or listen to me for 20 minutes and all your dreams come true. However, this is a series that I've done through myself, through some of the trauma that I've had in my life. Going back to when I was in high school, and now my mindset, I had to block things out. And I did that with loud music, avoiding things, avoiding sharing information, avoiding going to therapy, avoiding listening to my parents, and just a lot of things in our life. And we carry these core narratives from our lives and these stories all the way through adulthood. So a lot of how we act today are ways that we dealt with things when we were kids. And you can be an adult and those things happen to you. So living life intentionally is a breakdown over 12 weeks on how we can start respecting ourselves, be aware that we are living a life, to take that 1 foot out of the future and to take that 1 foot out of the past so we can stand our feet right next to each other here in the present and live a life that's full of meaning, mindfulness, and staying in the present so we can live. These little series, they help me. I know they help Brian and other people. They help them because we want to find out and there's no trick and there's no key to this, but it's awareness. And how do you get to that awareness? And as we get into our second week, anybody knows, and you can screenshot these when I have these up there because they'll help you. We're now into week 2. We're going to identify and self-awareness of who we really think we are. You can't live intentionally if you don't know yourself, right? So how do we build honest self-awareness? How do we explore our identity and these stories that shape us today? That's what we're going to talk about the entire day with a little follow-up from last week. I still have last week's stuff up there, and it's important because that's part of today, and every series here and every week is designed with direction to help you out. So let's go back to last week for a moment. And I did give you some homework and assignments. If you remember, good morning, Farm Girl. I'm glad you're here. If you remember last week, why are you here? What would you want from this course? These are all things from you. You don't have to put it in the comments. Why are you here? What do you want from this course? Where in my life am I just drifting? Those are all little things that we're going to write down. So in this course, if you bring a little, I answered some of my questions from last week, and you see just a sentence. You don't have to write a whole monologue when you're journaling. So those were journal for 70, the last 7 days. Where did I feel on autopilot? Was there anywhere that we felt that we were on autopilot since last week going into week 2? So week 2, who are you really? Today is going to be exciting because isn't that neat? We get to find out who we are. And you might realize during this that you have noised out a lot of things in your life. I know I have. And we're going to talk about building honest self-awareness today, explore how our identity and our stories label, right? And help us shape choices today on how we feel about ourselves. And these are narratives and stories that we keep in our head. And everybody has some type of narrative. And we construct them. So we're going to talk about identity versus roles and who are you versus what you do. So when we talk about roles in life, we have many roles. Some of us could be parents and a policeman or a principal or a preacher. Those are roles. And what do those roles entail as a parent? Probably patience, kindness, understanding, teaching, sometimes maybe doing a type of discipline. Now, when I was a child, it was in the 1970s. Discipline included getting belted. I mean, getting hit and being told no. I mean, you got hit if your friends did stuff. If I cried, my dad told me, I'll give you something to cry about. So that probably had some type of effect, if you would think, on my life and on some of my thinking. So today we're going to have a little exercise. We're going to do roles versus identity. And those are roles from parent to friend to employee. And then we're going to list core identity words that would describe them. You know, like a teacher, a strong, I mean, not like that teacher might have been mean, was a good one. Fix your face was a favorite. Absolutely. Every time. So in your identity, um, we have these core narratives that we construct into our lives. Um, and we often frame our lives sometimes as overcoming obstacles, learning lessons, and growing through challenges. This narrative gives meaning to our struggles and helps see ourselves as protagonists rather than victims. And that's where we want to try to get to. We want to be a hero to ourselves. We want to save ourselves, understand our narratives, and rewrite some of these scripts. Um, but many of some of us have an "I'm special" story in our head, and we carry that "I'm special" story in our head, and we maintain a narrative that we're unique, exceptional, and destined for something great. This can be motivating, but also lead to disappointment when really doesn't matter, doesn't match our self concept. So these are just some people that just think that they're great. It kind of falls into, and we know some of them, people that think they're really good at their job or they're really good at things, but we recognize that they really aren't. So they wrote some kind of script in their head when they're younger that they're good at everything. Maybe when their parent did a good job, maybe they got a trophy for fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth place, that they're always going to do great. And then they go out in the world and they live a little bit of life. And we find out that we're not so great when our parents told us that we're not going to be an astronaut. All these great, grand things that we were told when we were younger, they're just not true. And that is the "I'm special" story. That's a narrative that we give ourselves, that you're going to do good. You're going to be the best player, but you end up on the bench. You're going to be the top person in your class, but you fail classes. So that is a narrative, and now it's everybody else's fault that this didn't happen, right? And we're going to go over these a lot. Here's one that I can really relate to, and anyone that knows and watches me, I'm 55. I'm going to be 56 in a month or so. Um, the "I'm not enough," the counter narrative. That's where I've always fallen into. So conversely, I often always told myself stories of inadequacy, that I'm not smart enough, I'm not successful enough, or I'm not worthy. And these limited beliefs became self fulfilling prophecies for me when I wasn't doing so good in life. Because I just didn't feel that I thought something was wrong with me. I thought I can't belong to this group because I don't fit in. I can't join the wrestling team because I'm not like those guys. I can't do this because I'm nothing like that. I can't belong to this club because I'm not smart enough. And I had a reason, and then it became a narrative in my life, which isolated me, right? And a lot of that came from the way I was brought up, what I was told by during parenting, what I was told by other people on the playground. And I wrote that narrative. I heard it enough, and I decided that's the one that I choose. And we all chose one in life where we don't understand our limits and we're not living our life because of this narrative and this story. Now, remember today on week 2, last week we talked about, are we on autopilot? Are we just letting our life go by without living it? What are we doing in our spare time? This week, we're going to find out what story we tell ourselves, how we're numbing out, and how we're still living a label or a narrative that came into our life. So we have the hero, people that frame our lives as heroes, overcoming obstacles, learning lessons through challenges. It gives meaning to our struggles and helps us see ourselves as protagonists rather than victims, right? The "I'm special" story, we're maintaining a narrative that we're unique, exceptional, special, and everyone's going to notice that and everybody's going to see it. But often people don't. So we're letting ourselves down because all of these we're living, we're prophesizing it, and it's happening to us. The story that I told myself, that I was never smart enough, good enough, valid, worthy, that included limiting beliefs that became self-fulfilling to me. So that's what happened to me. And we have the curated story, the age of social media. We craft polished versions of ourselves, highlighting achievements, happy moments, and successes while hiding struggles and failures. And that's one of the ways to numb out of what's really going on. In today's age, the curated identity story of having social media, and it works both ways. You have people that stand in front of cars to get pictures. They want people to see, hey, this is my car. Sometimes it might be, it might not. Or they just take a picture or make a video of something exciting of, hey, I'm living a good life. And this is to hide how they really feel. Okay, and that's the curated story. And it helps them hide their struggles. So somewhere, where are we hiding our struggles? Through what kind of identity? So we're going to do a writing exercise today of how, what we are and where we work and how we believe we live. We're going to put words to describe that to ourselves. So the social media age, we're crafting polished versions of ourselves, highlighting achievements, happy moments, and successful while hiding the struggles and the failures in our life. When it's our struggles and failures that we keep repeating, it's these habitual thoughts that we have in our health, in our minds, that we bring in, and it affects our health, how we feel about ourselves, our mental state. Here's a quick something. Some of the people who are watching may have been left in the house the last couple of days. And we go to the grocery store before a storm to get things to keep our bodies healthy, so we can eat, so we can stay alive. And that's our bodies. But to live, we need a healthy mind. So think of yourself at the store, and if you were mind shopping, what would you need to get if there was a mind store? If it sold new versions of you, what version would you purchase at the store? What would you go to the store to get for yourself? And what part of you, when you get that new part of you at the store, are you going to eliminate? I want to buy this for my mind to replace this in my mind, right? So the next narrative that there is, and these are just some that I know about, that I look up, and these are just some of the most common narratives. But it's interesting today to realize that there's now a narrative that has to do with social media, because we have a group of people now in life that are actually being raised by these phones right here. They're taking them to school. They get their dopamine from the school of who texted. And there comes a word called nomophobia. Nomophobia is the fear of missing out of something, whether it's social media or something that you're following, the fear of not having your phone near you because you feel you're missing out. And if you feel you're missing out from a phone, then you're really missing out on life if your life is a phone. So the why things happen narrative. And I'm going to go over these again. We create cause and effect stories to explain events. This happened because I did this, or that's because you did this, or it's because of my character. These interpretations shape our emotional responses to where everything is somebody else's fault. Or I was born and raised in this town, that's why I'm this way. Or I had an Uncle Billy, that's why I'm this way. Or my teacher in first grade did this to me. Or this happened to me because I lost my job, because I didn't get to work, because this is the why narrative. Everything is somebody else's fault. So let's put them all together. What if we lived all of this narrative? What if we were a hero and everything's great and dandy, but I'm also very special and everything's going to happen to me, but at the same time, I'm not enough, and I'm telling myself I'm very inadequate for anything and I don't matter. And then, but I'm going to go flash pictures of myself all over social media of how great I'm doing, like I'm living the life of Cinderella. And if it doesn't work, it's everybody's fault for not liking my TikTok. How about that? That's where we are with our lives. These are identity stories. We're going to write one today. And the thing is, our brains naturally, when we're growing up, okay, our brains in our life, um, they crave explanation and they crave patterns. And more importantly, they crave patterns. Our brain loves patterns, it likes things on a rhythm. And we learn these rhythms, sometimes young, could have been in high school. And there's different debate that our subconscious and how we feel about ourselves is from 3 to 7. Some say 5 to 8, and I think personally it's up to probably 12 or 13 where we might learn some things. Because I had some things happen to me after 10 before 12 that I know definitely affected my life. Right. So our brains are craving these patterns and explanations. To help us define who we are. And it's not who we are because we of where we were in life when we got them, right? And that's for identity formation. Our identity formation is coming to us at a very young age. And now we may find ourselves in our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, 50s, 60s. It doesn't matter. Where we never went in and cultivated and tore up some of these identity beliefs about ourselves, putting us in the same habitual behavior that we may have been, listen to this, for the last 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, 15 years. If you're in here and you're under 20, I wish I would have known some of this when I was under 20. My life may have been different, but I loved my life. Brain likes patterns for survival. Perception can create ruts. That's right. So, identity information, stories to help us define who we are, emotional regulation. These are narrative to help us protect difficult experiences. So, we're using narratives to help us through painful things. Um, Shared stories create bonds with others, and that's a social connection and future orientation. These are stories that help us imagine and work toward possible futures. So the problem is we confuse our stories with objective and truth. So when we're talking about what a profound and fascinating question it is to ask yourself, who am I? Where did I come from? Where do I identify? And this is the story we're going to write today. After today's hour or whatever it is, we're going to explore how this identity and these stories labeled and shaped our choices. But first, we need to know what roles are. These are who we are and who we believe that we are. So the stories we tell ourselves, I'm just not that type of person, and how our beliefs are driving our behavior. So first, your identity, and these are some of the stories we told ourselves. So let's roll a little bit to some of where our identity is. And if you don't catch this, you can go to our Linktree link on my profile on TikTok. If you hit Linktree, it'll take you to another platform where these are all not pre-recorded. At that time, they would be, and you can slow down and watch some of this. So when it comes to our identity, that's our fundamental sense of self, the unique combination of our personality traits, our values, and our beliefs. And we talked about our values and our beliefs. And to take those to find out what they really are. Good morning, Kelly. I'm so glad to see you in here. When we talk about those values and beliefs and identity, we get to rewrite these scripts, right? So an identity and our beliefs are personal characteristics that makes us who we are. If the answer to who I am, that comes from within you, your identity includes things like your sense of humor, your moral compass, your passions, your personal preferences that distinguish you from others. And, to live that way, to talk about that last little sentence, your moral compass, your passions, your personal preferences, These all distinguish who you are from others. And this is where boundaries come into our life. And boundaries are kind because you're typically going to give boundaries to people that you like. These are my boundaries. I want you around, but here's some of the things that I don't like, that I would prefer. And they would give you boundaries too. Not everybody's going to like every single thing about us, but if you forge or weave a relationship in your life and you want to keep it, you're going to have boundaries in there of what you will and won't accept out of somebody. You can't just let somebody run you over just because you love them. You can't let somebody just allow you to live the shell of who you are and not your wholesome self because you're walking on eggshells, living with them or being with them. And we may be that person and we don't want to be with that person. And we had to figure out on how to make some changes in our life to live the best that we can, to live intentionally and into the moment and how we see ourselves and identify ourselves in the roles that we're in, and the roles that we're in as a spouse, and the roles that we're in as a boss, and the roles that we're in as friends, the roles that we're in as what we teach. And are we approachable? Right? So identity versus roles. The identity, it's our fundamental sense of self. That's our identity. And then we get into roles that we're going to be writing up on later. Our identity and where roles fall in and play into part of our identity, right? So our roles are going to be the positions you occupy and the functions you perform in society. So you're a volunteer, what's your role there? You work for an insurance company, what's your role there? These are the external labels and responsibilities you take on. You could be a student, a daughter, a friend, an employee, an athlete. Roles are about what you do rather than who you are, right? Who you are is who you are sometimes when you get home or when you're by yourself. A role is something that you're identifying with that you play outside of the house. I mean, people aren't born teachers, they become teachers. And in that role, that's how they're doing things, right? And it's important that there's a distinction between who you are and what your role is in life. And the key insight to that is while roles change throughout your life, you might change jobs, relationships begin, some relationships end. These are all these things. Life's always unraveling. And sometimes we're just letting that happen to ourselves in different roles. We're just letting it. Where life's going by, but we're not living it. We're not experiencing it. Our emotions aren't involved into it. And we do this because of the narratives that we tell ourselves. We, on a personal level, have to unravel the insides of us to understand our perceptions, where our boundaries should be, where our morals should be on wanting to live life. So let's talk about some practical examples about roles. Let's just start with a doctor. His role might have an identity as a compassionate, curious problem solver, right? So when we're writing what our role is and our self-identity today, these are just some things to help you think because we're going to be talking about you. You have yourself under the microscope right now. A parent role might have an identity as a patient, nurturing protector. I like that. A parent is a protector. They're patient. A student role might have an anti-identity as creative, determined learner. So someone who's purposely a student is determined to learn and be a student, and they are doing that on purpose, right? That's what a student is, somebody that's voluntarily in a role because you're a student. So we need to be voluntarily in the role as the person controlling our lives. Do you see kind of where we're getting at with this? So when we're identifying who we are today and what our roles are, what are the roles in your life? Are you the rule maker in your life? Are you the one that decides the last decision? Are you with somebody understanding enough that'll help you make the last decision and somebody that you can talk to? Sometimes that's hard to do those things. The role is the hat you're wearing. Your identity is the head underneath the hat. So that's something to really think about. The head underneath the hat, underneath the role, behind the scenes. Who are we? Who are we going to be? Understanding this difference helps prevent defining yourself solely by your job title and relationship status or other external markers of success. So behind the role, who are you? Somebody meets you. So what do you do? What do you tell them? What do you like about yourself? Should that be your prompt that we're doing today? Today, our activity, after I shut off today, your activity is to help you identify your roles and who you are versus what you do. I am a construction worker who does construction, and I get plans from people, and I employ people that put it all together. And my roles at work are estimating, helping to work in the office. But behind all that, who I am is somebody that wants to experience more life. I'm passionate. I like to teach. I have a sense of humor. I'm fun. I'm quick to get frustrated. Um, I can be tired, and sometimes be the opposite of what I seem. And these are things that I have to fix out over into my life. But these are things that I explain to people in my life that know that I have things to deal with. Sometimes the old person in me, the frustrated person that sometimes withdraws. Sometimes I engage, but I'm careful about what I say. Um, appealing. So the most um the best approach to all of this of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about our identity and our role, about being passionate and purposely living in our life, are some things here. We need to acknowledge that we're always storytelling. And what story do we need to tell about ourselves? Are we being compassionate toward ourselves and giving ourselves credit? Because I bet you a lot of us similarly don't believe a lot of good things about ourselves because we might feel inadequacy about being that. That I'm not really that way, but you're naturally good at things. You have to let your life flow. Turn on the faucet of the real you and let it pour out. And don't let other people plug up your hose, if you know what I'm saying. So we want to acknowledge that we're always telling a story. That one of the stories that I told, we're either a victim or we're inadequate or we think that we're good at everything and it doesn't work out. And we secretly go home and pout. So we want to acknowledge we're always storytelling. We want to question our narratives regularly. There you are. Question your narratives regularly. You know, am I really doing and living the life that I want? Is this really what I do after work? What am I planning that's shaped around the real me? When I'm not working or a role, am I a fisherman? Am I a hiker? Am I an explorer? Am I a reader? You know, am I an inventor? And we want to stay open to rewriting your story. And this is a big one with me, staying open to rewrite my story, to realize I'm not just some stupid, inadequate kid who didn't take a bath often enough before I was 12. And we want to balance positive and realistic perceptions. Positive and realistic. What can you handle changing now? When I talked about going to the store to shop mentally, what are you going to exchange? And everything would be an exchange, trade. You can trade anything in your mind for anything new in your mind. What story would that be? This is where we can rewrite our lives. This is where we can take control minute by minute. Remember, we're taking a foot out of the future and we're taking a foot out of the past. We're standing front and center in the present. Only you. Don't worry. Nobody has anything else to do with it. Nobody can write your story or tell you who you are. You were born with power and a brain to use on your own. This is where you want to be in life. And recognize that multiple contradictory stories can coexist. So it's okay to have some contradictory stories in our life. Do you remember us talking about uh, cognitive dissonance? Cognitive dissonance is we have a belief and we have a moral, right? And the easiest way I've always been able to explain it is the story that I have where there's five kids and they're young and they all have morals. And some of their morals are to not lie to adults, to tell the truth. And these are basic morals that their parents are trying to instill of them. But when five of them get together and one of them throws a rock that breaks a window, and an adult gets all five of them in the same room, um, they get cognitive dissonance because they also have a belief that you don't snitch out your friends, but they have a moral and a value that you don't lie. So they don't know. I mean, what do? You want to be the rat or do you want to do the right way? And this is where sometimes in our life, we have contradictory stories that coexist, that we might want to do things because we have beliefs that we can't control. Is I strongly believe I don't belong to that club, but I really want to be in that club. I want to do what it takes to be part of that club. But then we write ourselves a story of a belief. So you have to have your core values that are in your life. And today we're going to identify some of what our core values are. Um, and your current identity story, after you write it, what would be your desired story? If you were to write your life, almost even write your end of life story, whatever they call that. Um, what do you want it to say, and how can you start living that today? And how can we get rid of some of the cognitive dissonance and beliefs um, uh, that create a cognitive lens that just really is looking at your life into the present moment, helping you be a better person? The most liberating realization that I want you to get out of this today, and not just this week, but any week, is that we're not just characters in these stories that we tell ourselves, right? We're not just victims of these stories, but what I need you to understand through this 12 weeks is that you're actually the author and the editor of that you can change it, that you can change how you feel about yourself, right? And it should be liberating to you. And um, and it can constantly you can constantly revise things as you grow. I've grown so much over the last couple of years since COVID, and there's a lot of things that I related to, and one is just being more self-aware, more journaling, more looking back at where this thought came from, why I would feel that way, why I would feel like I'm not good enough, that I can't do this. I have days where I can't believe I own the business that I own. And I numbed myself out building it, ignoring everything, just working on it, just working on it. And now I've realized um, that I'm a hard worker, that I apply myself toward what I believe in. And man, I was believing some pretty bad things about myself. When I say I had zero self-esteem, people couldn't believe that because I was outgoing in a way and a sense of humor, but that's how I masked things. That's how I masked being out. And then if I wanted to withdraw from it, I would just do it from anger or kick somebody out of a room or tell them to go fuck off. And that's where we have to fix ourselves. This is where I had to fix myself and do work. And I'm not afraid to admit that. I mean, being open and honest about things, I had um, a father who was probably most likely a functioning alcoholic at best, but he was successful in life. And as a role of a father, he was just a discipliner. That's basically what he did. He disciplined. That's how I saw it. Now, I have 10 brothers and sisters. They might tell you something different. But that's how I did. And I liberated myself from a lot of beliefs that I was forced to believe, growing up, whether it was the different stories that we were told about ourselves and who we are. So my current identity story is constantly changing. My current roles are constantly changing because I can edit it. And that's what should be liberating. This is how I cope in life. Um, what did we talk about so far today to make a quick note that's resonating with you on some of the stories? Um, I got a little bit of notes that I wrote last night getting ready for this because I got excited about. Um, does anyone have questions about roles or identity? But I get excited about talking to you all in the morning. I look so forward to Tuesdays. I look so forward to Thursdays, and I like seeing some of the same people in here. And if you're in here, that doesn't mean that you need any help at all. But the thing is, one of your objectives and one of the things that can liberate you is to realize that you have the power to change how you think. Um, Farm Girl, that's a big one. The cognitive dissonance, that's cool stuff. There's good stuff, but our beliefs are like operating systems in our mind. They fundamentally are constantly shaping who we are, what we think, and how we perceive the world, right? How we perceive the world. That's our beliefs of what we believe. Have you ever thought what you would be if we stripped away all your beliefs and just lived a day, not on autopilot, but just feeling the feel of going somewhere to be in existence? What are we feeding our minds? Are we numbing out? Are we scrolling? Are we going right to our phones? What in mind activity do we have planned right after? Who are we really? Exactly. Farm Girl, who are we really? Well, we're basically the, I would say that who we are really are basically the beliefs that were formed by sometimes other people and not ourselves. And when I started realizing that after 50, especially, that I told myself a lot of bullshit that wasn't true, especially about not being viable in the world to create something. I've been told I'm good to talk to. I've been told I'm funny. I've been told a lot of things, but I only believed the negative things that I've heard in my life that go way back, right? But our beliefs create cognitive lenses that filter our reality, and we literally see what we expect to see. Can you believe that? We're seeing every day what we expect to see until you change that. But it's automatic to your brain. It's habitual to your brain to always see what you want to see. There's a cognitive lens illustration. I'm going to share it with you if you want to write that down. And it's an illustration that's made. It's called the cognitive lens illustration. And it's an illustration that's made of why you see what you see through reality. No, but if you don't know what that is, I would recommend you looking that up. The cognitive lens illustration. And what it does, it selectively filters information that confirms what you already believe selectively. Can you believe that? So we're automatically going to go right back to ourselves when we do an exercise to make ourselves better. This is where to forge forward, you have to stay in the present. You have to stay on track. You have to show yourself respect to fix everything from the inside, because that's where every fucking problem we have is inside us. And it's inside here. So sometimes if you believe that you're just not attractive to other people, you'll fixate on the one critical comment at a party while ignoring the 10. And that one critical comment can be, gosh, your hair doesn't look as good as it did yesterday. But then everybody else says, oh, nice smile. I love your dress. I like your tie. I like how you look. You get all these comments, but you'll fixate naturally on the, because of the cognitive lens illustration, you're going to fixate on what narrative that you believe. There's a lot of people who look very beautiful, men and women both, that fix themselves up to look like $1,000,000, and people will look at them and say, man, you look great. But they don't believe that. And our beliefs always shape our behavior constantly. The belief behavior connection is what the cognitive lens illustration's about, because we're going to constantly believe what other people say and resonate. Other people just need to shut the fuck up when it comes to your mind. It doesn't matter what they say, because they're trying to make you what they believe you are. Especially people that are in bad relationship with you, that try to mother you, this and that, and be, that they think their identity is to fucking tell you what to do. And it's not. They need to get their own fucking identity. And even if you're in any type of relationship, you still can't give away your individuality. You can't not become yourself now because you're dealing with this person, or I work here, I can't do this anymore. These are my new set of friends. You can't. You got to be yourself in life. And there's some fucking people that don't get that. And it shows that mechanisms through which beliefs translate into action are about specific outcomes in our attitude. That would be one of the things that we can look at. And I'll probably have that up next week. We often use our past actions as mental shortcuts for future decisions. So that's why we might find ourselves in the same situation all the time. If you always find yourself behind on bills, or if you do stuff at the last minute, or you're constantly late, it's because our past actions are mental shortcuts for current and future decisions. We're constantly going to be doing what we're doing until we interrupt what we're doing and fix it. To look at things differently. If you think you're ugly, you're not. That's just you. If you think you belong, that's just a story that you're telling yourself. Everything that you feel is a failure in your life is a failure because of your mindset and what you're telling yourself, and what you've brought in of all your life living into this very moment has to do with your mindset and you. Not your mom, not your dad, not your uncle, not your wife, not your husband, not your best friend, not your dog especially. The one person in life that's a good friend's a dog. So think about yourself the way your dog thinks about you. If you want to start rewriting your narrative and your identity, what do you think your dog thinks of you? Every time they see you, their tail wags. So this is a new, exciting way to live our life. Let's take care of this 12-week living intentionally, and intentionally wag our own tails at ourselves and to be happy. So for roles and identity, those are some things you might want to look up. Or a cat. Thank you, Tana. And cats are good too. Cats are, I've had cats, and we wanted to get another cat. That's interesting. We have a dog right now, but we constantly talk about getting a cat. We just haven't got it yet. And I think that those are important. Farm girl, your puppy's excited every time she sees you, and that has a lot more to do with than because you feed her or give her warmth. Dogs know good people, and if they're wagging their tail at you, you're a good person, and you have to see yourself that way. And we have to build honest self-awareness, and sometimes using nature to do that is smart. Get connected. Take that breath. Take that extra break. Don't doubt yourself, because you can do this. It's going to be a lot of work ahead of us in these next 10 weeks. We're going to be this Thursday. I'm going to go ahead and put the cognitive lens right on this board, and I will go over it with you. And I can show you areas where I'm stuck in it. I will be stuck in it. We're getting to know each other. She's just 11 weeks old. Wow. What kind of dog is it? What kind of dog do you have? I have a Shih Tzu. I need to bring him in here one day. He's probably in there cuddling with Norma on a cold day, having some fun. So that's our beliefs trigger right into a mini Aussie. That's a good dog. But she has a ton of energy. Lots and lots. So our past behavior we're going to use as a reference to how we behave to reactions, how we behave to if you heard somebody say something about you, if you fail at something. How do you behave? What's your reactions? Remember, stop, put reasoning in front of it. Why do I believe that this is such a big deal? Why do I feel that this is such a big deal? Do you ever hear of sore winners and winner winners? So there's different beliefs that we have, and we're going to develop new sensories in our heads through the exercise that we're going to have until this Thursday and into the next week. And one is that we're going to do um, is I want you to try to think about one story that you tell yourself that you think's limiting your life. Something that you always wanted to do, but you're not doing. And that would be a prompt for writing. What story you're telling yourself to limit it? It could be to go live off grid for a week. It could be I would like to travel all of Europe. It could be anything that you can do because you can do anything. But where's the fear? Where did that fear come from? Who told you couldn't do it? Why can't you do it? What excuses you're telling yourself to keep you from doing it? It could be starting a business. It could be that you want to be a preacher. It could just be anything that you've always wanted to do that you felt that nudge. Remember when we were talking last week, when we're talking about if we're living a life, you see here the signs that you might be living on default. And one of the things that we do is that we're ignoring inner nudges. We're not trying new things. You don't journal. This is when you're ignoring inner nudges. That's like when you're sitting down, and it's not like I should be doing something else because of that. But when you're ignoring the real passionate you, that that resonated with me. Maybe I should do something different. Maybe I could do something different today to get out of my comfort zone, to put in effort and be deliberate about my life, to be deliberate and intentional about my dreams. One of my dreams is I wish I went to the gym every day. One of my dreams is I would really like to be a bakery chef, or I would really, no matter what it is, you can do it. There's people, you can't control everything. Um, this isn't about being able to control everything in life, but you can definitely control how you interpret it and how it affects you. You can control different things. One of the things that I try to get away from over the last many years is the political outrage and what's happening in our country and how does that affect me. I'm not going to affect it by blaming it on, the labels, the Republicans and Democrats. This show is definitely not fucking political. But, why get caught up in that? Why are people blaming a group of people when we know it's everybody's fault as a society? It's not just Democrat, it's not just a Republican. That's all I'm going to say about that. But what truly matters to you um, is one of the things that we're going to be talking about next week. After Thursday, is we're going to get into core values. So we're going to find out who we are this week with a little bit of homework that we do. Is how do we identify ourselves? What stories are we telling ourselves? Ha 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 ha! Farm girl. I love that. Brian, we have quick and witty. I love it. Political cognitive dissonance. Okay, so I have that. That's something that I have, and I like that. So we're going to selectively pick out a story we're telling ourselves that are keeping us from making a step out in life. You know, there's people like, I really would like to live down there. Do you have a job that's not satisfying? Do you have something in your life that's just not, it just doesn't fit? So identity through roles. So let's just kind of go over a little bit the last couple of minutes of what what I think that you should do before next week is we're going to your little homework would be write my current identity story versus my desired. So your current identity and what's your desired identity. This isn't a big long page. You're not writing an essay. Nobody's reading it but you. This is you being honest. And what keeps you from living your desired one? What fear? Somebody would say, I don't have enough money. What story are you telling yourself? How are you interpreting of why you can't become who you want to become? So you're going to write your current identity story versus your desired identity story. And notice during this week, when you think to yourself, well, that's just how I am, because that's what we want to change. I tried this, I wrote it down, I did that, I tried but that's just how I am. We want to get to the core because when we're talking next week on 3, we're talking about core values, and that is what truly matters to you. And it could be my home, my pets, and my family matters to me the most. So your identity as a protector and a provider is a strong identity. But what are you doing for yourself? You're doing all this for your home and your family and your kids and your pets. What are you doing for you? What are you getting? Is your life all revolved around what you're taking care of? And you're not part of what's being taken care of because you feel low self-worth, that you don't think you don't deserve a day out, that I don't think I deserve a raid day, that I can't go somewhere. I need somebody's fucking permission to do something. Let me tell you, when you're breathing your last breath one day, which you will one day die, none of that shit's going to matter. But here's what's going to be matter. What'd you do for yourself? Because a lot of people that you know aren't going to be lined up. They aren't going to be there. Some of them may already be passed away. I want you to know that your life is yours to live and not for somebody else. Don't get caught up into grudges or hate or past events that you think screwed you up. But you can fix them. And remember the word catharsis. Find the silver lining. Find that silver lining in your life. Sometimes I don't feel 1 hour is enough. That's why we do the weekly twice a week. So if somebody wanted to know of why Tuesdays and Thursdays are the same week, because I want to dab into a little bit on Tuesday of what we talked about last week and then start this week, right? A raid day is a rarity for me sometimes. Fridays are the best day, but why can't every day be Friday, farm girl? Did you ever think of that? Somebody needs to just rewrite the calendar. Friday, 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 Friday. Just make it the middle of the month, whenever bills are not due. Wouldn't that be nice? It'd be like, good news, everybody. Every day is Friday from now on. And it can be in your life. We can perceive every day as a Friday because we associate that with a Friday. Somebody sent me something about on Monday, we wish it was Friday. In the winter, we wish it was summer. In the summer, we wish it was winter. We're always wanting something different. But why? What about now? What's wrong with now? Why not pretend that today is a Friday? And it is for some people. If you're a student and you live where I live in Fairfax, which is Alexandria, Virginia, outside of D.C., and I think schools are closed today. There's a lot of snow outside. It's cold. Brian, who helps me, Brian, pin yourself up there. He lives an hour or so away, and we do all this for you. I want you to research some information about yourself before next week. If you're going to come back in this Friday with us, we do work here on Fridays. We're Tuesday and Friday, 7 to 10. But do some research on how you think that some of your beliefs influence some behavior. But now when you look back on it, when we look back on some stuff, not go back into history, but look back on how some of the ways that you're thinking are framing your everyday life, especially into what's frustrating you. Concentrate on what you want to fix. Concentrate to realize there's a whole new mental wardrobe you can wear that'll change your perception. This week, we're going to have the cognitive lens right here on this board. It's going to show you made by professionals, unlike me, but I do like teaching stuff that it's going to take you through a network into your mind of how we're going to be able to rewrite some of our stories. I'm going to go ahead and start my regular job where I have a role, a responsibility to represent my company as I decided to not let anybody work today and yesterday as well. Not because I'm a nice guy, just because it makes sense. And if the government doesn't have to work and the schools aren't working, then why should my people not be allowed to stay home? But some of them just say, oh, we want to be working, and that's fine. Um, we've worked a lot of weekends and stuff. I want you to be good to yourself today. And Brian, not you. You work from home. What are you talking about? Oh, geez. I probably shouldn't have said that. Now Brian's going to perceive that as he's not special when he is. So when we're talking about ourselves, we're going to be kind to ourselves. We're going to be good to ourselves. We're going to appreciate people in our lives. And I want you to think, if you ever had a pet, cat or dog, what you think of yourself the way they think about you. Be kind to yourself and the people around you, and realize that everything that you're confused about can be resolved, and hopefully some of it can be resolved right here in this living intentional. I want you to intentionally live in good ways and rewrite some of your stories. Everybody, you're welcome. Thank you. And be good to yourself today. I hope to see you here on Friday. And if you want to rewatch this anytime that you want to, you can hit our link tree. It's right on my profile. It'll take you to another channel where you can watch this. Brian usually uploads these on the same day or by the evening or the next day, and which I know is a lot of work to do because he has to remove the music. So I hope everybody has a good day today. Thank you so much. And give yourself a big smile because I appreciate all of you.